I call Sue Moroney.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. And it is a pleasure to rise and speak to the Employment Standards Legislation Bill, a title that actually says nothing. It's very, very difficult for anyone listening to this debate to even work out what on earth would be in a bill with such an odd name that describes virtually nothing. But I think the fact that we've just heard a speech from a government member on a bill that they should be very excited about and very committed to, that couldn't even last 8 minutes. I think it was probably about a 6-minute contribution. I think probably says it all in terms of the position that the government's found itself in, where they have had to make these sorts of changes against their will. But nonetheless, I'm going to be generous and say congratulations to the government for doing some good work on this bill. As my colleague Ian Lees-Galloway outlined before, we don't think they have it completely right, but we're prepared to work with the government to get it right. We think there are some substantial changes that need to happen to continue to gain the Labor Party support through the passage of this bill in all its various stages. But I do want to particularly note at this point that the Labor Party has no difficulty voting for a bill that improves paid parental leave just because it has the National Party's name on it. Yeah. Unlike the National Party, that actually plays politics at the expense of parenthood at every step along the way, because the amendment that they have announced today, I think, perfectly describes exactly how mean-spirited and how political the National Party are on this issue. Because just a few months ago, in February this year, that same minister, that National Party, voted against my proposal to do pretty much what they've suggested should happen today, and that is extending paid parental leave to 26 weeks for babies born prematurely. They voted against that, and I was shocked, Mr Speaker, to see reported in the media today that the minister actually said out loud that if David Seymour had voted for my bill, which he intended to do at that point, that miserable government would have vetoed it. They would have vetoed a bill that was going to actually support the most deserving of our families, the families where children were born with disabilities, the families where there was a multiple birth, or the families where their child or their baby was born prematurely. That bill that I proposed in February this year, at its highest level of implementation, would have cost $8 million. $8 million, Mr Speaker. The government said today that if David Seymour had dared voted for that, they would have vetoed that. Why they go out and spend $26 million on a flag referendum that not many people want? And I think that shows the mean-spiritedness of this government, and it shows their complete lack of commitment to families, and it shows the lack of decent priorities that they have for this country, because they would rather invest in John Key's vanity project than actually do the right thing, even though it be in the name of a Labor Member of Parliament. Because politics is the thing that is at the front of their mind whenever they are addressing this issue. The Labor Party, however, does support the proposals in this bill. That we don't think they go far enough, and we'll be dealing with that next week in this Parliament. We'll be debating a bill extending paid parental leave to 26 weeks for all eligible families, and we're going to be proposing that because we firmly believe that all children deserve the best start in life. So I remember reading a book some years ago called Politics in the Playground. It's a book written by Helen May, fantastic book that actually describes the politics going on around the funding of the early childhood education sector. and I would recommend it to anyone. But I could just about write a book now called Politics Interfering with Parenthood, because that's been my experience in this parliament over the course of the last few years. So for those who haven't been keeping up, here's what happened. In February, as a result of not being able to, after the election, not having the voting numbers to get through 26 weeks paid parental leave for all families that the Labor Party was promoting, I amended my bill so that it covered, it extended 26 weeks paid parental leave to families with premature babies, special needs babies, and with multiple births. Brought the cost right down to a figure that I really felt the government could accept. That if it genuinely was about cost, which I don't believe it ever was, by the way, but if it genuinely was, the government should have been voting for that. What I was able to do was actually to get one of their coalition partners, the ACT Party, to agree that they would vote for it. But here's where it all started turning belly up. When David Seymour informed the government of his intention to vote for my bill, they begged him not to. And then they made him a promise that they would do what my bill did under their own name. Poor old David Seymour, he fell for it. He fell for it. And today they played him for a mug. They played him for a mug because they only accepted one portion of that. So the children, the babies born with special needs, they're going to miss out on having this extra bonding time with their parents, because while the government will argue that there are other supports there for children born with disabilities, they are not the supports that allow parents to stay in the home and not be forced into paid employment within that period of time. They are not the measures that will do that. And so they've got it wrong about the bonding and attachment and how important that is. They fundamentally don't understand this. They're prepared to play politics with it. That's all they understand about it, is the politics of it. They don't understand what it's really about. But in their own regulatory impact statement on this bill, I just want to read out the problem definition that the officials have told them about. They say the problem definition is this: currently, some families experience poor outcomes due to financial pressure on working mothers to return to the workforce earlier than is desirable for social and health reasons. This can lead to suboptimal bonding between parents and their children, leading to poorer outcomes for children and therefore society. Secure attachment is an important predictor of resilience in later life, and a large body of evidence suggests that many adolescent difficulties, including crime, substance abuse and mental health, have their antecedents in early childhood. Reduced time for mother to bond with children is also reported to have health and developmental benefits, and does not achieve the World Health Organisation's recommendation of exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months.
Thanks,
for the first 6 months, Minister. That's what your own officials have advised you. This comes straight out of the Labor Party playbook about why we're promoting paid parental leave to 26 weeks, 6 months. That's exactly what your officials are advising you to do. And yet you come forward with this watered-down version. Despite the official advice that you're getting from your own officials, you come with this watered-down version because it's the least you think you can get away with. Well, Mr. Speaker, because of the politics played by the National Party and because of the ability for them to dupe David Seymour, there are around about 2,000 families that would have been getting access right now to 26 weeks paid parental leave from the 1st of July if that government hadn't played politics with their lives. Because if they had allowed David Seymour to vote for my bill as he intended to, that would be happening right now for 2,000 families. And as a result of them watering down what they promised him they would do, for breaking their promise to him, there is roughly about, and this is a conservative figure, about 1,000 families every year for eternity who will miss out on getting extended paid parental leave because of what that government did. And I just want to remind this House who those families are. The ones they have ruled out and said are not deserving are those whose children are born, their babies are born with disabilities. Their babies are born with special needs. And that government says they're not deserving. They are not deserving of having extended paid parental leave. And the other group they've singled out is the families that have the joy of having a multiple birth. They have twins or triplets. If they're really fortunate, they might have the joy of even more children being born at one time. But the pressures that go on those families are extreme, and I'm sad that the government has ruled them out as being not deserving.
I call Alistair Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.